Welcome. Hello, I'm Mae DeMasi, an equine lover and journalist from the 2021 EQUUS Film Festival. And today I have the pleasure of speaking to horse trainers Anna and Lisanne, who are riding their Mustangs, accompanied by their canines, 5,000 miles from Delaware to California on the American Discovery Trail to inspire the adoption of 5,000 BLM Mustangs into loving and educated homes. Greetings, you two.
Hey, yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time from your long ride to speak with us today about how Bernice Ende impacted your lives. So I'm dying to know how you guys came in contact with Bernice or how you found out about her.
So we were reading everything and anything and everything about people who had done things similar to what we were doing, because no better, way to, kind of have an idea of what we're getting into than firsthand accounts. And so Lady Longrider, her book was one of the first ones that I personally read. I probably read it it was probably last November when I dove into it, when this idea was kind of coming to life. Maybe it was December, but crazy to think it was already almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I first came across her. I think I very vaguely remember seeing news clippings and things about her, in the past years and years ago. But reading her stuff, her book was definitely one of the first times I really got to know who she was and all of that. We spent quite a bit of time trying to actually get a Zoom call going or whatever, but Bernice was very much a person who she preferred the company of her horses over people. And so it took many, many months to actually get to get even an email response back, let alone a date set for a Zoom meeting. So she was always elusive that way. But Lisanne actually had the pleasure of getting to meet her. So I'll let Lisanne talk about that story.
Yeah, it's crazy. And as I feel as we're on the road, we're understanding the difficulty of how hard it is for people to get in contact with us, because we change locations every day. We're not always in service, and we have a lot going on. And so just even time wise, it's hard to respond to everyone. And so I understand kind of why it took so many months to get a hold of Bernice, but it was so crazy. I had driven up to a northern part of Montana to go to Outfitter Supply, which we had seen was a sponsor of Bernice. And also we wanted them to sponsor us as well for our trip. And I got to talking with the owner, and he was really skeptical about me when I rolled up there, but we ended up spending 3 hours talking, and I felt I finally made it into his inner circle. And he was so excited about our trip. He was like, oh, I got to get you in contact with Bernice. And I was like, that would be so cool. And so again, back to Bernice being super hard to get a hold of, he tried 3 different phone numbers that he had for her. And one was her accountant. And then one was her publisher or something for her book. And then the third number was out of service and didn't work anymore. So he was like, well, I tried, there's no way to really, I can't get a hold of her, obviously. And I was like, well, I really appreciate you trying. And so I left there. And as I was driving away, 20 minutes down the road, it was a 6-hour drive home. 20 minutes down the road, Russ, the owner of Outfitter Supply, calls me back, and he's like, you'll never guess who's sitting across from me right now.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So
she just came in.
Well, same afternoon. And she had just ridden into his place, and he was like, yeah, she'll be at this town here about 5 o'clock at the fairgrounds if you want to meet her. And I was like, yep. And cranked the car around and hung out for I took a little nap because I was so excited to meet her. I was like, I need to have all of my energy to meet such a lady. And it was so cool. It is so hard to track someone down that moves every day and doesn't really answer their phone. So I don't know how the stars aligned on that, but it was super unique to actually sit down in the grass across from her and be able to talk to her about some of her journeys and her advice on different things.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember you started, like what started the conversation? Like what topic? Was it actually long writing, or was it on something personal?
Yeah, as for the conversation, she just wanted to know more about the trip and like what we were doing. It was really interesting because like I started telling her about like the support that we had on the trip and like having a support truck driver and like vehicle with us the whole way. And she was kind of like really skeptical and she was like, that's not real long riding. And so like, because she had done everything she's ever done, like unsupported. And so, you know, but like by the end of the conversation, like she said that we were doing it the smart way because like we're right now in Maryland in the East Coast and we rode through Washington, D.C. even. And she was saying like that's something that she would never do. She avoided those areas kind of at all costs kind of deal. So she stayed to the more secluded stuff. That's why she did a bunch of trips out west. She did do one trip east to west, which was 8,000 miles total because she went there and back. And but that was northern. That was like right below the Canada border. So like again, there weren't very many people in those areas that she was traveling. So yeah, she told us that like it wasn't real long riding, but she appreciated what we were doing. So yeah.
Well, I guess if, you know, you did a comparison, I could see kind of where she was coming from. I mean, but like she said, I think you guys are doing it the smart way.
Yeah, we just aren't as tough as her is what I concluded. Yeah. And we don't want to be.
We'll never be on her level.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
No, and you don't have to aspire to such a thing. You're doing it in a good way.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, is there a particular lesson you learned from her, or has she inspired you to do something in a certain way or see something in a different light? Like from her experience?
Yeah, so I actually, since I didn't get to meet her in person, I kind of got information secondhand and also from her book. I mean, I think from her book, really just staying flexible, it was the biggest lesson. Because you never know what's coming your way and you can think you have it figured out and you really don't. And I mean, that's a lesson that can be taken not just in long riding, but life. And so kind of having that awareness, you know, there's not anything that really can prepare you for something like this. But I think, reading those books that we did read kind of gave us a little bit of a glimpse into what to expect. One of the things that really stood out to me was Lisanne had said that she said, make sure that your pack animals and your horse really operate like as one entity. And because I mean, if something happens, like you've got to move them like without a second, hesitation. And so I really take that to heart. I'm thinking about that every day when I'm riding. To really have my animals work as a team, but not just, I mean, she didn't hardly ever ride with anyone. I mean, Lisanne and I also have to operate as a team with our horses and everything. And so really keeping that team mentality of, we're not just one horse, we're now 6 moving together. And so really keeping that, keeping those animals operating, with that togetherness and that unity has been something that I really, take to heart and really think about every day that we're on the trail.
So it sounds like, reading her books and you meeting her was really ideal and it helped you a lot.
Definitely. Yeah. And I know Lisanne's made some adjustments to like her shoes and like things like that as well. From talking to Bernice, she just gave a lot of like insider tips that, people probably don't care about reading the book because most people who read it aren't going to do what she does. They want to live through her. Right. So like she was able to get some ideas about things that for her horses that, like it was just really nice, I think, not to have to actually go through all the trials that it took her to do. Right. And she talked about, putting a lot of wool and how important padding was on her horses and having nothing like really rub the horse and touch the horse. And so things like that, like, I mean, she had to learn that the hard way. Mm-hmm. And she was just passing that information on to us that she spent probably thousands of miles figuring out, which is really, really nice, that we didn't have to put our horses and ourselves through that. So that was really, really great, and that's not something you really get from the book. So that's why we knew it was really important to meet her before we started our trip.
Yeah. Seemed like the timing was very interesting. I read her memoir just about the same time you did. And I made a beeline to the Kentucky Horse Park to meet her because I'm like, I have to meet this woman. I mean, I was just blown away. And it was so easy to read her work too. Like I thought it was well written, and I mean, just all her adventures were just amazing, all by herself.
Yeah, it was really funny because like I had read the book and she went right through where I'm from in Wyoming. And she, when I met her in person, I kind of brought up that I was from that area, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, that was the worst time." And like after all those miles, that was like her first trip and everything. And like she still remembered like just south of my home as being like one of the worst times that she's ever had. So I thought that was like really entertaining because she was down there in like the LaBarge area of the world. And yeah, so it was definitely interesting to hear like more of that story.
I wanted to ask you in terms of like riding with your animal companions. Is there anything you'd like to say about how you relate to Bernice and the relationship she had with her animals? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of similarities that you guys have with your animals. Like you were talking about how you guys are all a team. It's not just like, people going out with their horses and dogs and going out, I mean, I'm sure you really do have to be out there as a team and like what you were talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool because like I got to meet her fjords that she was traveling with, and they were really amazing. But I mean, she had gone through a few trial and errors of horses too to like get to her final team of fjords there. And like they did work really well together. They were super comfortable in like their lifestyle and choice, and like they were easy keepers. And like we've had to work with our horses, like adjusting to that. It is interesting. Like she mentioned, like you have to know your horse inside and out. And it seems like every day we're getting to know our horses and critters a little bit more, like their thought processes, and like trying to work with them in a team like fashion. I don't know if Bernice ever did this, but we've been like talking with animal communicators and things, like just trying to understand them a little bit more. But yeah, like Hannah was saying, like it is really important, like that they're all willing to move as a unit and be willing to try a lot of things that sometimes like they're really uncomfortable with. So, but they have to trust us, and we have to trust them at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, and I feel like we have our 4 Mustangs, our mule, and our burro starting to really work well together. But an element we're still, because we've been on the East Coast with a lot of populated areas, we're still working our dogs into the mix. So Bernice had her dog Claire dog, and she would ride with her and things like that when she was really young, which we kind of missed that opportunity with our dogs. They're adults. And so that's still a component that we are still, wanting to get towards, is figuring out how to make a box similar how she had on her pack animals when the time comes, and working the dogs more into the team who have traveled a little bit with us. But lately we've just been in 2 populated of areas. So we're slowly getting there. We have, I feel like, more animals now than what Bernice probably would ever dream of traveling with, probably for good reason. But they're really all doing awesome. We're so proud of them.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to say? A specific memory, or anything else about Bernice?
I got asked a little while ago, like what, like the one thing was that I like really took away from like meeting Bernice in person, and like it was just like her presence of like, so she did ballet for so many years. And so like, just thinking of her now, like I'm trying to like sit a little straighter for this interview, but like, she just sat down and like with so much grace and like poise, and just like, she was so flexible even. And then to see her, like when we were done, like talking to her, she just like jumped onto her horses, like off the fence, and rode them away bareback, like literally like rode off into the sunset. It was quite the magical moment. But like she'll forever be a legend. I'm tearing up a little bit, but like she'll forever be like a legend to us, and quite the inspiration for sure.
Very nice.
And for me, I think I didn't get to meet her directly in person, but I think something that's really stood out to me, like really about her book, was like the amount of respect that she always had for her horses and her dog. Like what really sticks with me is the fact that even after Claire dog passed, she lived many, many years still riding her horses and not having that dog companion. And she said she would never get another dog again because Claire dog was the best dog like there ever could have been for her. And the amount of respect she had, you know, for that dog, to not replace her and say, I've already had the best one, that's enough for me. You know, that says a lot, because I imagine, you know, there was some lonely nights where she probably was missing her companion. And I think that was really remarkable that, you know, she did that.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, she found her on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think next to a sibling that didn't make it, but just the whole way that came about was very interesting. And I think at first she didn't even want a dog.
No, I don't think so.
So even in the book, that was really, you know, because she was always talking about her relationship with Claire dog. So, and it really didn't make her story, but you could see how they were definite companions. Mm-hmm. You know? Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah. Thanks for having us and, you know, doing this podcast and video and, you know, kind of keeping Bernice's memory alive.
Yeah.
Well, thank you and good luck on your journey. We'll be watching and tracking you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. That was what you said. Really, really, really good stuff. Like, okay. Really, like, it was very personal and like, it was really good.
Yeah.
Different perspectives, because one of you met her in person and the other, you know, you read the book. So I think that was also interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I read the book too before I met her. Well, Hannah told me that like this was a book I had to get. So I read it during ski season on the bus. Little did my students know why I was reading all these long writing books, but
they're still in the dark.
Yeah.
My mom was in the dark too. She knew something was brewing, but she didn't know what. And so she just waited until I told her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But truly remarkable, really sad that she passed away. Like, I knew that she had cancer. Russ told me that before I ever met her. And that's why she was moving down to be with her sister.
Yeah.
Because she was really just anti, like, leaving anything behind, really, like, anywhere. And so, yeah, I don't know. I find it interesting. From what Lisa Dearson has said about, like, her family, like, that's really sad to me. That they aren't like super supportive of like what she was doing, and they're like taking down her website and just like trying to erase her in a way, which
and it was
so fast,
which really surprised me. So
because it was you that's putting it together, and like you screenshotted all of her pages, right?
I did some things, but like I wanted to go on our Facebook page and make some tributes and some dedications, and like, you know, they were just taking it down. So maybe that was their way of grieving. I don't, you know, closure, I don't know, but
I didn't even know about that.
It was too fast, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I talked to Ren Winfield today. She did the movie, the documentary on Bernice.
Mm-hmm.
So when they first did that was supposed to be part of the Film Fest last year at the Kentucky Horse Park. But because it went virtual, they didn't want to put it in the contest. So they were thinking that it was going to be like in person this year, so that they would have it run it this year. But it's virtual again this year. So I was talking to Ren anyway, and I'm like, oh, because when she first did it, the CDs were for sale. The DVDs were for sale, and I bought one. But they're no longer for sale because she's hoping it's going to get picked up like from PBS or something, which would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the documentary CDs?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it had gone to... Okay.
That's when at first was released. So I talked to her today and she says she's not selling them like that anymore because she thinks it would take away from it getting picked up. Like it would be more appealing to people if it wasn't just like for sale on a website. I think it might get picked up because I think it's really good. I don't think there's women that, I mean, there have been women like her, but
not like that. No. No one's ridden more miles than she has.
Mm-hmm.
By herself.
There'd be a lot of interest in that.
Well, definitely by herself and unsupportive, but like Felipe hasn't. Those guys that rode Patagonia they only rode 20,000 miles. I think Bernice, by the time she passed, she had like 35 or 40,000 miles under her belt.
Yeah.
Which seems like our 5,000 miles is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it seems like a small fraction.
Again, I wouldn't even make a comparison. You know, I would just look at Bernice as an inspiration and don't compare what you're doing to Bernice.
Well, obviously, Bernice didn't even want us to compare.
No, you could soften her up after a while. I took her to dinner once, and it was kind of like all the things that you were saying. It was just she was quiet and poised. We sat at the bar and we had a steak, and it was really special being able to do that with her. Mm-hmm. We had a gin and tonic. She was completely relaxed, and it was kind of like this little pocket of time. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was very special. I didn't know she was sick. So.
Yeah. I knew when I met her, but like, I mean, obviously I hadn't met her before that. And like, she was such a tiny woman, and like, I felt like she was tiny anyways, but I mean, just with like how much, like, yeah, just grace she was moving with, like, you wouldn't really know aside from her being tiny, but I didn't know if she was tiny because from ballet, like, right, decades of ballet, or
yeah,
if it was a sickness. So
yeah, maybe a combination.
Yeah, but still, I mean, just a great inspiration, and like, thank God she wrote a book, because she hated like writing the book. Going through the process of, like, trying to sell the book, that was even worse for her.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have a feeling she'll be an inspiration, long after the ride, even in us making sure our stuff is published and everything, because I mean, yeah, had she not published it and thought about it, even if it's painful at times, then there wouldn't be people that are able to kind of share some of that experience. And I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I used to postpone life, come up with reasons and excuses for not doing what I really wanted to do. Like, I don't have a horse, or I don't have enough money, I'll get enough money and then I'll do my long ride. And, well, I'm not so sure. Maybe I should wait a little bit longer to do my long ride. It grabs you. It's like you don't have a choice. You have to go and do something. You have to live. The day I left, I was in tears. Why am I doing this? But that ended, and that I made it through that. I discovered who I actually was out there for the first time in my entire life. And now I ride because I love it. I ride it because it's who I am. It fills my soul. There's no choice anymore. I can't go back. I can't go back and be the way I once was. I married my life. For the first time, I married my life, and I love it. I love long riding. I love sharing the story. I love the people I meet.